So I'm going to talk about red teaming and jailbreaking. And let me start with some of the good news, relatively speaking, which is that it's gotten a lot harder to jailbreak closed-weight models. I think we've been seeing over the past year that developers have deployed a lot more defenses in particular areas like bio and cyber. And while it's not a completely solved problem, the difficulty has gone way up, and a lot of the problem now has shifted from needing scientific breakthroughs to more just needing good engineering and broad adoption. So we'll have more to say on that in a few weeks. We're going to be releasing a big report. But for today, I want to talk about maybe the bad news on the open weight side, which is that they still seem to be trivial to jailbreak. So for example, you don't need to be an expert. You can just spend 15 minutes Googling and download an obliterated model like Gem04 and have a pretty compliant jailbroken model. One of the questions that many people have here is whether you need a bunch of resources, like maybe you need GPUs to run the model or to do a bunch of fine-tuning, some expertise on how to do the fine-tuning or obliteration. But what we found is that you really don't need that at all. So again, you can just Google, for instance, an input only, you just need user prompt jailbreak, for instance, for DeepSeek v4 here, that wasn't patched from a previous DeepSeek model. Or if you have a bit more access, you can use a system prompt as well with another public jailbreak. Or if you have access to prefills, you can do a prefill attack. So even though a lot of the unique sort of risk space that people think about with open weight models is on these tampering, fine-tuning, et cetera sort of attacks, they're actually quite vulnerable to just simple input space jailbreaks as well. Another common question is, well, maybe you can jailbreak the model, it'll comply, but you could destroy the capabilities in the process. But that also doesn't seem to be the case. So Anthropic had a paper recently where they found that this so-called jailbreak tax disappears with stronger models. And that matches what we found on the open weight side as well, where some jailbreaks do degrade the capabilities, but it's quite possible to get ones that don't. So what can we do? I think there's actually quite a lot of technical measures that can be pretty promising here. So if we compare open weight models with some of the leading, most relatively safeguarded closed weight models, we see that models like GPT 5.5 are just way more robust to jailbreaks, even without external safeguards. So just the model itself. So it's very possible to make open weight models that are robust to input space jailbreaks. There's also a lot of promising research on pre-trained filtering to control dangerous capabilities. I think Stella, right after me, may talk some about that. And promising future directions as well, like gradient routing, where you can concentrate some capabilities in a particular expert. So for instance, like bio capabilities, and then you could potentially remove that expert to get a model that is much safer in that area. And then there's also a lot of work that we can do on the government side. So for instance, building a better understanding of the risks, risk modeling, dissemination, building consensus, and just better evaluations and testing, identifying and fixing vulnerabilities. So the sort of a concluding message that I want to leave everyone with is that there's definitely a lot of risks here with open weight models, but I think that there's actually quite a lot of promising directions to make improvements. If you want like a single magic bullet that will completely make them safe in one go, that's probably impossible for any AI model. But I think that we can really reduce the risk a lot by some of these interventions and building safer open weight models in general. Thank you.